حتما. دیگه به شما
پروگرام از ما به بینندگان عزیز وعده کرده بودیم هفته گذشته که یکی از این دوستا رو آوردیم که اگزیکیتیو کوچ است. اگزیکیتیو کوچ یعنی یک کس است که به وظیفه کوچ میکنه، اما تو که به تیم فوتبال یک ترینر رو کوچ میباشن، همچنان به وظیفه کسایی که علاقه دارن که باعث وایس پرزیدنت یا پرزیدنت یعنی رئیس کمپانی‌های بین المللی شوند. از اون نگاه ما میخواستیم که از یک نگاه یک چند دقیقه به اونا معلومات بدیم و همچنان یگان کتاب است که به وبسایت میباشه. خوشبخت هستیم که دوستم آمریکایی است که به انگلیسی همین اینترویو است که اینترویوشان که اینترویو خود دوستان من جانا عزیز ببینن و بفهمن که اصلا چی میگن.
It's very nice because if you want to move to the next level of management, he's going to guide you. UC is a very good university to take you to the next level. It's very interesting. All of us can use that.
He is recruiting and also doing executive coaching. Now he's going to explain to us what executive coaching is. But before we get into that, I want Karl to give us an assessment of the job market, where you see the job market going in the next 6 to 12 months. And also if there's some hot industries, maybe there's some sweet spots that we can have some of the new generation folks get into and capture.
Okay, well, Taymor, thank you very much for having here. I'm very honored. And,
Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, it's always been fun working with you, and I know no good deed goes unpunished. You always ask me to do more.
Absolutely, and that's why you're here.
That's it. As far as the job market goes, it's moving sideways, as everybody sees. But what I don't think our target audience sees, which are young managers getting ready to try to move up into the executive suite or into higher level management, is that those jobs will be opening up simply because of the demographics. People are retiring. The baby boomers are, in fact, leaving the job market, and the pressures are on businesses to go ahead and replace those people. So the management level and executive level recruiters are definitely still doing business.
Okay. So as far as middle management, this is good news for me. I am a middle manager, and this what you've shared with me today is very good news. Now, the question that I have for you is, what are some of the steps that I can take to go from middle management into the C-level positions?
Well, I'd say one of the first steps you have to take is have a discussion with yourself and your family as to if this is something you really want to do. Simply because the demands on higher level management and executive positions are just utterly fantastic. They will truly try to drain all of your time out of you. So you have to be a very strong person to decide when you will give time to your family and when you will give time to business.
Okay. Well, family is very important in the Afghan culture, as you all know. There are times when we actually sacrifice our careers for family. Right. Which we're proud of. Yeah. Now, having said that, can you give some insight into exactly how much commitment we're talking about here?
Well, there'll be people that will want to have you work 12 hours a day as an executive. And you have to be able to ratchet that back and balance it maybe down to about 8 hours a day with about 2 hours at home or on the road or wherever you're traveling to.
Blackberries.
Very much so.
Okay.
Like myself, I took off recently in this past month, a week and a half to go visit my parents who are both in their 80s.
Wow.
And my brother and I take turns visiting our parents, and we just have to do that and let business suffer as a result, or at least work with our clients or work with our bosses that, hey, we want to take this time off and it's important for us.
Family first. Right?
Family
just like a good Afghan. Great, so now you understand our dilemma.
It's a dilemma everybody faces around the world.
Absolutely.
There are 3 questions that you really have to ask yourself. What is your dream job?
Okay.
Where do you want to live? And is your family on board with the answer to the first 2 questions?
Okay, so let's talk about the dream job.
Well, I'd like to come back to the 3rd question.
Okay.
That is the toughest one of all, because if the wife or the child or whatever family member that's important in your life right then says, no, then you have to rethink what do you really want to do, and how do you want to time it, or how do you want to repackage it and sell it to your family member.
Got it. And that's exactly why I try to skirt the third question. Now, Karl caught that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understood, got that. I will definitely discuss with my family.
Yes.
Now, dream job and also where you want to live. Now, in today's environment, you can essentially live anywhere. In a global marketplace, you can do your work via BlackBerry at the airport, in the car, which you shouldn't do, but people do. But you can also work from home as well. Of course, at the sea level, we're talking about quite a bit of travel and quite a bit of time away from family.
Correct.
So what kind of dream jobs are really out there if you're away from your family?
Well, you don't necessarily have to be away from your family, because there are mid-sized companies that pay very well in the six-figure range, that you can stay locally and not have to travel as much. You'll still have to do some traveling, of course.
Okay, great. Well, I have some dream jobs. At least I have some dreams.
Yes.
Traveling professionally, getting paid for my travel. If that's something you can help me with, maybe we can talk about that after the show. But for now, what I want you to do is to shed some light on some of the new generation Afghans here are in fact at that level. They're at the mid-management level, and they're essentially looking for the answer to get to the next level. So if they've covered those three questions, if they have the dream job and they know where they want to live and the family's okay with them moving into that level, what are some of the steps that they can take that can help them propel into those positions?
I would say the first thing that they have to do is do a self-assessment. And they may have to do a self-assessment with peers that they trust, their own personal board of directors, or an executive coach. What they really have to do is understand, how are they leading their own people?
Okay.
Because being a manager is not so much about doing things anymore, it's about inspiring other people to do something.
Right.
There's a saying from Benjamin Franklin from many years ago, who said that the eyes and the head of the master will accomplish more than both the hands.
Okay.
Meaning that you have to inspire people.
Right.
And so what I did is I brought along a few books that people may want to take a look at.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the demographics have changed. In the past, we worked in a more authoritative environment where fear essentially drove the goodness out of us. In today's environment, it's a little different. You really have to motivate folks. And motivating folks requires better communication skills. It requires better skills in general as you lead, and leading by example. Now, Karl has actually given me tips in the past, and he's also recommended books for me, which I've read. He's brought a sample of books here, and I want you to share that with our guests and tell us a few tips about each one of these books.
Okay. This is just a real quick sample that may help an aspiring executive to be. First off is the famous What Color is Your Parachute? And this is a very good book for people to read through. It does take a lot of reading, but it's worthwhile to help you decide what you want to do.
Okay.
All right. And then the next book is Persuasion and Practice, who was by a professor when I went to USC. And it discusses that persuading people is something you do with people, not to people. And so when you're leading people that are underneath you, you're actually persuading them to do something with you and lead by example. It's not something that you tell them to do and walk away.
So do you provide them an incentive, or do you offer them some kind of a salary raise, or how can you persuade people today to do beyond what they're currently doing?
Well, what's more important than a salary raise is for people to believe in you as an individual.
Okay.
If they believe in you as an individual, the salary raise may not be all that important. What people really want is respect.
Okay. Now, how can they actually stand up and get noticed?
Well,
in other words, I work for a company where we have about 72,000 employees.
correct.
How do I make myself stand out?
I would say the way you would make yourself stand out is how you interact with people.
Okay.
You have a very short amount of time to be in front of people, and when you're interacting with people at meetings, a vice president will see there and watch that interaction. And a lot of the times, the vice president's issues are not so much what a company is doing, but who do they want to promote.
Right.
And so what they're really doing is they're scanning the environment within their own company. Who are the leaders that we have within our company, or do we have to go outside of our company to a recruiter and hire someone like me to find someone outside?
Okay, great.
And so another thing you may want to take a look at is a real quick book called The Servant Leader. And it's basically that a leader is a servant not only of the people that the individual of his boss, but also the people that the individual leads. A man or a woman also as a servant leader also has to make sure that they're serving their customers, serving their peers. Even though your peers may be your rivals, you still have to work as a team and make them look good as well.
Lead by example.
Correct.
Okay.
And the next one, and this is where you're really starting to dealing with leading people, and it's the 8th habit. And it's a very voluminous book, but it really gets to the point of what you really want to do is find your voice as a leader and help others find their voice.
And that's the 8th
habit.
Okay, because I've heard of this first 7.
Right, the 7th.
And this is the 8th.
Right.
And so find my voice and help you.
And help others find theirs.
Okay.
Yeah. Originally, he wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Correct.
Which is still a fantastic book. Everyone read that in college.
I have it on my bookshelf.
Yes.
I do.
But the 8th habit, people I think will really enjoy, because what it really does is explains the motivations of people and what is really going on with people's families behind the scenes. Why are they showing up to work? What motivates them to come to work? What motivates them to want to be a part of your team?
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next one is The Extraordinary Leader, and it talks about turning good managers into great leaders. And basically, I'll give a quick example out of the book. And then what they used was a sampling of a sales force.
Okay.
And normally what many businesses do is go ahead and try to spend a lot of effort getting rid of the bottom 10% of their sales force.
Right.
And they kind of pet the top 10% of the sales force on the back and ignore the middle 80%.
Right.
Is how do you take that middle 80% and make them just as good as the top 10%? And that's how business really makes money.
Okay, and what are some of the examples that they have there for us?
Oh, I wouldn't want to go into that right now, simply because it would take too long. But the idea is that you want to focus on the people in your organization.
Okay.
Not merely the bottom line results.
Right.
If you focus on the people, the bottom line results will come.
Well, in today's environment, the bottom line does, in fact, drive
Correct.
Your company's success. So, if I read these 5 or 6 books,
Yes.
will I be ready for that position? Can I become the CEO of a company just by reading these books? Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
You have to apply that. You have to apply what's in these books.
Okay.
And so if you're looking at getting promotion or a raise, you're probably looking at, or jumping ship to another company, you're probably looking at developing your reputation about 6 months out.
Okay.
At least. Because what you have to do is find your blind spots and take care of those blind spots.
Okay, so let's just say I become a well-rounded person.
Correct.
But nobody outside my company knows me. How do I get visibility outside of my company?
I'm glad you asked that question. That's where I see people are the weakest, because once they actually do that, they'll see their own blind spots and be able to actually do something about it. I believe everybody needs to be a member of a professional association.
Okay.
For example, I've been a member of the Personnel Association of San Diego, and it was a great association where I met my peers. And what they have are special meetings after the normal meeting, which are just the vice presidents of human resources for the various businesses.
Okay, so we should get involved in associations specific to our industry.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Because then what you'll do is you'll see what your competition is like,
right,
and you'll see others that inspire you. And also, people are always showing up to those associations looking to recruit.
Okay. So you're not just suggesting that you get your name involved in the association. You're suggesting that we get involved. In other words, take on leadership roles and show folks within your industry to both your capability and competency, but also your leadership style.
Correct.